The evening had started like any other. I returned home from a long day at work, the weight of exhaustion hanging heavy on my shoulders. But as I stepped through the front door, a strange tension lingered in the air, thick and suffocating. Ignoring the warning signs, I followed the faint murmur of voices drifting from the living room, my heart pounding in anticipation. Pushing open the door, I was met with a scene that seared into my memory like a branding iron against flesh. There she was, my wife, Maya, entwined with another man on our couch. Their bodies pressed together in a way that made my stomach churn with disbelief and rage. I stood there, frozen in shock, unable to tear my eyes away from the heart-wrenching sight before me. Maya? My voice cracked, barely above a whisper, as I struggled to comprehend the betrayal unfolding before me. Maya's head snapped up, her eyes widening in panic as she scrambled to disentangle herself from the other man's embrace. "No, wait, I can explain," she stammered, her words ringing hollow in the silence of the room. The other man, a stranger whose name I didn't even know, stared back at me with a mixture of guilt and defiance etched across his features. "Hey man, it's not what it looks like," he muttered, his voice dripping with insincerity. But the truth was plain to see, written in the tangled limbs and guilty expressions that hung between us like a heady shroud. Trust, once the bedrock of our marriage, lay shattered at my feet, leaving me adrift in a sea of confusion and pain. And as I turned and fled from the room, the sound of Maya's desperate pleas for forgiveness echoed in my ears, a haunting reminder of the betrayal that had torn our world apart. In the days that followed the devastating discovery, the world seemed to blur into a haze of confusion and pain. The image of my wife, Maya, entwined with another man haunted my every waking moment, filling me with a sense of betrayal so profound it felt like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. As I struggled to make sense of the wreckage of our marriage, doubts and suspicions gnawed at the edges of my mind like hungry wolves. Trust, once the cornerstone of our relationship, lay shattered at my feet, leaving me adrift in a sea of doubt and uncertainty. "Maya, how could you do this?" My voice cracked with emotion as I confronted her in our bedroom, my hands trembling with the weight of my shattered illusions. Maya's eyes filled with tears, her voice barely above a whisper, as she reached out to me, desperation etched across her features. "I'm sorry, I never meant to hurt you," she pleaded, her words ringing hollow in the silence of the room. But apologies were meaningless in the face of such profound betrayal. The trust that had once bound us together had been shattered beyond repair, leaving me adrift in a sea of anger and despair. Each new revelation of Maya's infidelity felt like a dagger to the heart, driving a deeper wedge between us with every passing day. The lies, the drinking, the smoking. Each new revelation only served to fuel the flames of my rage, leaving me teetering on the brink of collapse. And as I lay awake at night, tormented by the echoes of Maya's deceit, I couldn't help but wonder if our marriage had ever been real at all. Had it all been nothing more than a facade, built upon a foundation of lies and deception? In the end, the answers eluded me, leaving me adrift in a sea of doubt and despair, grappling with the shattered remnants of a love that had once burned bright as the stars. And as I gazed out into the darkness, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a leaden cloak, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Desperate to salvage what remained of our shattered relationship, Maya and I embarked on a journey of reconciliation. Therapy sessions became our lifeline, a fragile thread linking us together in the face of overwhelming odds. But despite our best efforts, the wounds of betrayal refused to heal, festering beneath the surface like an infected wound. "I just don't know if I can ever trust you again, Maya," I confessed during one particularly tense therapy session, my voice raw with emotion as I struggled to articulate the depth of my pain. Maya's eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling as she reached out to me, her desperation palpable. "I'll do anything to make this right, I swear," she pleaded, her words echoing hollow in the sterile confines of the therapist's office. But apologies were meaningless in the face of such profound betrayal. The trust that had once bound us together had been shattered beyond repair, leaving me adrift in a sea of anger and despair. And as we stumbled through the motions of reconciliation, the wounds of betrayal continued to fester beneath the surface, poisoning our every interaction with the bitter taste of deceit. The lies, the drinking, the smoking. Each new revelation only served to fuel the flames of my rage, leaving me teetering on the brink of collapse. In the end, it became painfully clear that no amount of therapy could bridge the chasm that lay between us. Our marriage had been built upon a foundation of lies and deception, and try as we might, we could never hope to rebuild what had been so callously torn asunder. As I watched Maya walk away, her tear-stained face etched with sorrow and regret, I couldn't help but wonder if it was all for naught. Had our attempts at reconciliation been nothing more than a futile exercise in denial, a desperate grasp at a love that had long since withered and died? In the end, the answers eluded me, leaving me adrift in a sea of doubt and despair, grappling with the shattered remnants of a love that had once burned bright as the stars. And as I gazed out into the darkness, the weight of betrayal pressing down on me like a leaden cloak, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. With each passing day, the weight of Maya's deception grew heavier, dragging us further into the abyss of despair. Unable to bear the burden of uncertainty any longer, I resolved to confront her, to force the truth from her lips, no matter the cost. "Maya, we need to talk," I said firmly, my voice cutting through the tense silence that hung between us like a heavy fog. Maya's eyes widened in alarm, her hands trembling as she stared back at me, her expression a mixture of fear and guilt. "What do you mean?" she stammered, her voice barely above a whisper as she backed away from me, her back pressed against the wall. I took a step forward, my gaze locked with hers as I fought to keep my emotions in check. "I know there's more to this than you're telling me, Maya," I said, my voice low and controlled despite the roiling storm of anger and betrayal that churned within me. "I need you to be honest with me. Tell me the truth." For a moment, Maya hesitated, her eyes darting away from mine as if unable to meet my gaze. But then, with a resigned sigh, she began to speak, her words tumbling out in a rush of desperation and guilt. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks as she confessed to her infidelity, each word a dagger to my heart. "I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you." But apologies were meaningless in the face of such profound betrayal. The trust that had once bound us together had been shattered beyond repair, leaving me adrift in a sea of anger and despair. And as the full extent of Maya's deception came to light, I felt something inside me snap, a primal rage boiling up from the depths of my soul. How could she do this to me? To us? In the end, there were no answers, only the bitter taste of betrayal lingering on my tongue like ash. And as I stood there, staring into the eyes of the woman I had once loved more than life itself, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. As the full extent of Maya's betrayal unfolded before me, I found myself torn between conflicting emotions, love and anger warring for dominance within my heart. "I don't know how to forgive you, Maya," I confessed, my voice thick with emotion as I faced her across the wreckage of our marriage. Maya's eyes filled with tears, her voice trembling as she reached out to me, her desperation palpable. "I'll do anything to make this right, I swear," she pleaded, her words echoing hollow in the silent emptiness of the room. But apologies were meaningless in the face of such profound betrayal. The trust that had once bound us together had been shattered beyond repair, leaving me adrift in a sea of anger and despair. And yet, despite the overwhelming weight of my anger, a part of me still clung to the love we had once shared. The memories of happier times whispered to me in the darkness, taunting me with visions of what could have been. In the end, it was a battle I could not win, leaving me standing on the precipice of a decision that would irrevocably alter the course of our lives forever. "I want to believe you, Maya," I said softly, my voice barely above a whisper as I reached out to her, my hand trembling with uncertainty. "But how can I ever trust you again?" Maya's eyes filled with tears, Her voice choked with emotion as she gazed back at me, her heart laid bare before me. "I don't know," she whispered, her words a haunting echo in the silence of the room. And as we stood there, locked in an embrace as fragile as glass, I knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. But whether we chose to walk it together or apart, one thing was certain. The scars of Maya's betrayal would linger long after the wounds had healed, a bitter reminder of the love that had been lost. Thank you for listening to the story to the end, and if you like it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you